What the fuck is up, everybody? And welcome. I'm your host, Tony, and today we're throwing it back to 2005 for my nostalgic review of a comedy that's equal parts hilarious, heartfelt, and, well, a little problematic by today's standards, The Ringer. If you haven't seen The Ringer or it's been a while, don't worry, I'm going to be your tour guide. I'm going to take you on a trip down memory lane. We'll talk about what made this movie a gem, dude, where it stumbles, and why it still holds a special place in my heart. So grab a snack, maybe a Capri Sun for that 2000s vibe, and let's get into it. All right, let's set the scene, okay? It's 2005. Flip phones are peak technology. MySpace is the social media king, and Johnny Knoxville is everywhere, dude, fresh off of Jackass and ready to take on a starring role in a scripted comedy. The Ringer hits theaters. Directed by Barry Blaustein, I believe, and produced by the Fairley brothers. Those guys behind There's Something About Mary and Dumb and Dumber, Me, Myself, and Irene. This movie is peak mid-2000s comedy, bro. Edgy, unfiltered. It's basically banking on shock value with a side of little. So what's The Ringer about? Johnny Knoxville plays Steve Barker, a down-on-his-luck office worker who's desperate for cash to help a friend, Stavi, pay for a medical procedure. His shady uncle, Gary, played by Brian Cox, by the way, yes, Stryker himself, convinces Steve to rig the Special Olympics by posing as an intellectually disabled athlete named Jeffy. The plan: win the gold, cash out on bets, and solve all their problems. Of course, things don't go as planned. Steve forms genuine friendships with his fellow competitors, falls for a volunteer named Lynn, played by Katherine Heigl, by the way, and starts to question the whole scam. Naturally, right? It walks that thin line with like sensitive subject matter, okay? Even for its time. But let's start with the good stuff because there's a lot to love here. First off, Johnny Knoxville is surprisingly amazing in this film, dude. Like, not an Oscar performance, obviously, but still, for what he had to work with, he's got this like everyman charm, part goofball, part good guy. That makes you root for him, even when he's doing something as morally questionable as faking a disability. His physical comedy, dude, obviously from Jackass, years of those stunts, it just shines in this, dude. There are scenes like the disastrous track race or when he's trying to act convincing as Jeffy. There's this one moment where he's practicing his Jeffy persona in front of a mirror, dude, and it's both hilarious and it may be a little uncomfortable for you folks who were born during the pussification of America. Classic Knoxville. But the real heart of the movie, the assembled cast of the Special Olympics athletes. Yeah, they're funny and they're authentic. There's a scene where they roast Steve, or Jeffy, at a diner, calling him out for his terrible running form, and it's pure gold. These guys aren't just side characters, they're the soul of the movie, dude. The Special Olympics organization even endorsed the film, which was a big deal at the time, because it aimed to show these athletes as real people. Funny, competitive, and not defined by their disabilities. Duh, right? Now let's talk about the comedy. The comedy itself. This is a Fairley Brothers production, so you know it's got that hilarious boundary-pushing humor. There are lines and gags that had me, dude, fucking howling back in 2005 when Steve's uncle, Steve, when he says, like that monster tart from Green Mile. In the middle of an argument, dude, Brian Cox is an absolute menace as this like sleazy, chain-smoking gambler, and he's having the time of his life. Then there's the running joke about Forrest Gump references where Steve keeps getting compared to Tom Hanks' character. Dude, it's absurd, but it lands every time. The romance subplot with Katherine Heigl is fine. It's not the strongest part of the movie, but I will say Heigl's got like this sweet, grounded energy as the character of Lynn, the volunteer who falls for him. Their chemistry, like, isn't like, it's not electric, but it's charming enough to keep the story moving. But okay, all right, let's address the elephant in the room, the premise. In 2025, looking back, The Ringer is not a tough one to defend. The whole concept of a guy pretending to have a disability to cheat the Special Olympics is fucking funny, guys. It's a product of its time when edgy comedies often leaned into shock value without much thought about like the long-term impact. Fuck, I miss them days. The movie tries to handle it with care. Steve's like deception is called out, dude. And the film goes out of its way to humanize the athletes, which I love. Some of the humor around Steve's Jeffy persona, like his exaggerated mannerisms, are stuck, dude, forever in memory. I remember watching this too as a kid and just laughing, but revisiting it now, dude, I can't remember this movie being this good. That said, I think the movie's heart is in the right place. It's not mean spirited, and if you look closely through your social justice lenses, it's very clear that the filmmakers wanted to celebrate the Special Olympics community. Don't believe me, some of the athletes in the movie were real competitors, and their involvement in the film feels so real. Not like exploitative and like just not so fucked up. Still, if this movie were pitched today, it probably wouldn't get made. Too many pussies. So why does The Ringer still hold up for me? Nostalgia plays a big part. This was one of those movies that I'd watch on repeat with my brother, quoting lines like, "When the fuck did we get ice cream?" We'd lose it every time, dude, but beyond that, it's the unexpected heart that gets me. There's a scene near the end where Steve comes clean to his new friends, and instead of rejecting him, they rally around him. It's cheesy, sure, but it's also awesome in a way that the modern like comedies just lack. The soundtrack is another dude nostalgic like bomb. It's got that mid 2000s mix of alt rock and pop punk. I think the All American Rejects and Fall Out Boy vibes, even if they're not on the actual soundtrack for the movie. It just feels like 2005. You know, watching it now, I'm transported back to a time when my brother and I picked this film that one morning afternoon because it was the only one that PG-13 ish that we knew we can get into. You know, we weren't there for PG movies; those were for chumps. So PG-13 was more like it. So where does The Ringer land in 2025? It's a time capsule, a flawed but lovable comedy that captures the spirit of its era. It's not perfect, and some parts will make you roll your eyes, but the laughs will always be there. And the message about friendship and, redemption, it just still hits. If you're revisiting it, go in with an open mind and an understanding of the context. And I only say that because how sensitive you rebels are. Maybe don't watch it with your super PC friends who get offended by everything. But if you're in the mood for a dose of 2000s like I am, hello, it's worth a stream. And that is why I am officially sealing this film with my approval of will go down in history as legendary. But before we wrap, a quick shout out to the Special Olympics. The organization's been doing incredible work for decades, empowering athletes and changing perceptions. If you're curious, check out specialolympics.org to learn more or get involved. I'll include the link in the video as well if you are interested, and hopefully not an asshole. But that's it for today's episode. What's your take on The Ringer, though, for real? Like, is it still underrated? Like a, underrated hit from back when comedies just dominated that family TV? Or does it miss the mark? Comment below and let me know. Thanks, guys, for watching. And if you're interested in more, please, please, please be sure to subscribe. Whether you're a woke person or not, I really hope you still enjoyed this video because, dude, just go watch the movie if you don't believe me. Like, even if it offends you, you might still enjoy it just a little bit. You just got to let that little smile out. Just see, it's right there. Just got to let it out a little bit. Thanks, guys, for watching. I am Tony, and I am signing off. The fuck was that, right? Like, who does that shit? The fuck? That was wild.